Hey guys, welcome to a special segment that we like to call Kyle Tries Stuff. Today, Lindsay has assembled for me a number of products from the dollar store. These all are like beauty, skin products, or things like that. So we're gonna give all these a shot and see if we can recommend them or not from the dollar store, okay? So we're gonna start with some Dermasil Aloe Fresh, okay? It's Aloe Fresh Moisturizing Body Lotion. So I'm guessing my skin should feel a lot less dry. So let's give this a shot. This little thing, okay, so it's got a little thing on it. We're gonna pull that off. Okay, all right, let's give it a smell. It's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. I can't necessarily identify what that is, but it smells clean. Smells clean. Let's give it a shot here. All right, so we're gonna get a little flop of it right there. Okay, and we're gonna try it right here on some dry skin and kind of see how that feels. Okay, let's see. It's taken a while for it to absorb into my skin, which could be a sign that it's not a high quality body. But we'll see. Pretty oily. If if this was on the floor and I was walking, I would definitely fall down. I'm gonna have to go with not recommended. This is the not recommended side. Like I think it, like, see I have a Tootsie Roll right here? I think I could stick this Tootsie Roll and it wouldn't fall off, but let's see. Well, I guess it's not that sticky, but it feels doesn't feel refreshing, it feels sticky. Okay, second thing, we've got, oh boy, we've got some hair gunk, hair gel, ultimate hold. Okay, so this ought to be like unbelievable. The dude on the package is very scary. I don't know if you want to check him out. Right there he is. I'm not sure that's even a person. 10-hour ultimate hold, 10 out of 10 or 10 hours, I'm not sure. And to see if it's actually, oh, whoa. Wow, so first of all, you take the lid off, it just splattered everywhere. Wow, you need to get a close view of that. It's like custard, and it smells like lemon pudding. Oh, I'm not sure that I would ever, on a regular basis, put this on my hair, but we're gonna, oh gosh. You know slime? Like slime, like that you get it like Nickelodeon or that kind of slime. That's what it feels like. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's see. Now usually when I use my hair gel, I put a little on and I, rub it together like that. All right, so here it goes. Let's see if it does anything to my hair, ready? All right, let's see, it goes on pretty smooth. Yeah, it's pretty sticky. It's pretty sticky. It smells like lemon pudding. It's weird. I'm gonna have to go in the not recommended pile again for a hair gun. All right, let's go with something maybe a little simpler. I don't know. Let's get some sprays. All right, sprays are nice because they're fast. You can use them quickly and they work. So we've got Pure. We've got Pure Attraction Bath and Beauty Melon and Plum Silkening Body Mist. If you just go by their label, you have to kind of, I guess you have to go with this being like, I'm gonna feel silky, is what I'm saying. If I don't feel silky, then it's not a good product, right? So melon and plum. All right, first we're gonna do the smell test. Ready? Let's put some in the air and see if we can smell it. Okay, it's subtle. It's not super powerful. Let's just try a little bit on this arm. Since we already put that other stuff on this arm, it's gonna be hard to tell. Very subtle. Very subtle. I'm not sure if like I was going out on a date or something, and I sprayed this on, that my date would ever even notice it. Okay, it's pretty subtle, but it's not horrible. So I think we're gonna put this in the recommend. I think you could get this and be pretty happy with it. So we got our first recommendation from the dollar store on Kyle Tries Stuff. It's the Pure Attraction Melon and Plum Silkening Body Mist. Do I feel silky? I do. I kind of do feel silky. I gotta say, I feel silky.
How y'all doing? Let's get up to the front. Up to the front, up to the front. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Are y'all ready?
It's okay, you can clap. Clap, 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 clap. Not a day has gone by, not a moment in time that I wasn't held by your arms, that I wasn't seen with your eyes. Not a time that I've shed, all the times that I've hurt, my every heartache you felt, my every prayer you've heard. I finally found my home, the place where I belong. Here in your love, here in your love. My heart is set on fire, you take me even higher. Here in your love, here in your love, here in your love, love, love. Here in your love, love, love. I'm here in your love, love, love. Here in your love, here in your love. Nothing can separate us, nothing can tear us apart. 'Cause you're in my every step, and I'm holding on to your heart. I finally found my home, the place where I belong. Here in your love, here in your love. My heart is set on fire, you take me even higher. Here in your love, here in your love. Let's go. Here in your love, love, love. Yeah. Here in your love, love, love. I'm here in your love, love, love. Here in your love, here in your love. There's no mistake, your love. You will take me after us, after us. There's no escaping, your love. You keep on chasing, after us, after us. I found my home, the place where I belong. Here in your love, here in your love. My heart is set on fire, higher and higher. Here in your love, I found my home, the place where I belong. Here in your love, here in your love. My heart is set on fire, here in your love, here in your love. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days, I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. Lord, we're just so grateful we get to be here. I mean, think of what we just sang. I mean, every second of our lives, you've been working for our good. You're a loving Father. Even though you're high and lifted up, Lord, you decided to come down and live the perfect life for us. And that's why we're here, Lord, because we get to live that truth out. I pray that as we head into the sermon, Lord, that our eyes are fixed on you. Our ears want to hear what you have to say to us, Lord. Holy Spirit, work among these kids so that when we leave here, we're changed people. We're better than we were before. And it's in your name I pray these things. Amen.
All right. Hello. How's it going, middle school? How you doing? Good. No school tomorrow? How you feeling good about that? Hey, we had this thing last week, fall kickoff. Were any of you there? A few of you were there. I want to show you something. Watch this. So that was fun. It was a good day last Sunday. I hope you had fun. If you did have fun, or if you weren't there and you're like, I want to do something cool with the hangar, we have a really great opportunity for you to do that. Coming up this coming Saturday on October 16th, we are doing what we're calling HMS The Big Day, and it is what we are doing this year in order to be kind of COVID aware. In place of our middle school retreat, we are going to just do a 12-hour-long event. So we're going to pack everything that we would normally do into our overnight retreat. We're going to pack it all into 12 hours and do it from noon to midnight on Saturday. And let me give you the rundown of what we're going to do. We're going to start off with some service projects. First thing off the bat, we're going to serve other people. Do you guys remember the Afghanistan evacuation that was in the news in a really big way back in August? Do you guys remember that? Any of you maybe pay attention to that? So a lot of those families that were evacuated from Afghanistan are ending up in the Northern Virginia area because the government is here. And so we are going to have the opportunity to serve some of those families, not in like necessarily direct ways, like you won't like meet any of them necessarily, but you'll have an opportunity to do some really impactful things to help serve some of those families. And then we have some other service projects as well going on around the church. So that's happening and then we're gonna do the most epic scavenger hunt you have ever participated in. It's a 3-hour-long video photo scavenger hunt that is awesome. Everybody loves it all the time. It's super competitive, so that'll be super fun. And then we'll do like a worship service, but we'll do a worship service without any music, so it'll be time in here, but we won't sing. There won't be Ryan and the band won't be here. It'll be a very different way of kind of worshiping and learning about God. We do this every year with our middle schoolers. And then we're capping off the night from 10 to 11:30 with, we're going to a place called Nova Ninja. And if you imagine, any of you ever seen American Ninja Warrior? Any of you ever seen that show? So this is like the gym version of American Ninja Warrior. So we go to this place and it's got like all of these, like, it's got like the thing where you have to like balance, like climb up the walls by like balancing between your 2 hands and feet. And it's got like things where you have to hook on to climb, you know, like that type of thing, and like swinging back and forth, and like this ramp that you just have to run up, and you're not supposed to like, you're supposed to run all the way to the top, and you're not supposed to use your hands to pull yourself up to the top at the bottom, to pull yourself up at the top. Anyway, all sorts of stuff. I'm not doing it justice explaining it to you, but it's super fun, and that's where we're gonna cap off the night. We've gone there before, and it was a big hit with middle schoolers. So, mark your calendar. Oh, and a free shirt. So if you were like annoyed last week that there were no shirts for middle schoolers, that's because we're giving you a free shirt at HMS Big Day. So you're gonna get shirts on Saturday. So sign up, and you have to pay for it because we're doing a lot of stuff. There'll be food. We'll feed you a couple of times, at least dinner, and then probably like some sort of a snack. So anyway, good. Make sure you're signed up. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, HMS, big day. All right. So last week at fall kickoff, we started a new series called The Big Questions, and we are talking about 3 questions that change every teenager's life. 3 questions that every teenager is asking. You might not realize you're asking it. You might not fully be asking them just yet. You might just be beginning to ask these questions. But over the course of your teenage years, 3 questions that every teenager is asking in one way or another. And we kind of opened that up last week by talking about how Jesus changes everything. If you really understand Jesus, then that changes everything. And that's like the foundation for these 3 questions and how we would choose to answer them as followers of Jesus. And then this week, we're going to take a look at one of them, and we're going to take a look at the other 2 over the next 2 weeks. So here's what I want to know first off. Do any of you really like talent competition shows like American Idol, Dancing with the Stars? Yes, which one's your favorite? You like what, huh? America's Got Talent, that's a good one. Anybody else? Anybody else have one they love? Yes. American Idol, super good. American Ninja Warrior, yeah, that would be one. Anybody else? You what? Yeah? Okay, yes? Yeah, that's a good one. So You Think You Can Dance would be mine. I love So You Think You Can Dance. I watched it so many years in a row. Gio, why are you wearing sunglasses in the room? Okay, just check. Okay. So, yeah, so you know those talent. Okay, so or the other thing would be like the Olympics. That also would be a good. Any of you like avid Olympics watchers? Anybody love? Okay, so here's what I want you to kind of picture in your mind is, you know how like when they'll do the auditions for a lot of those things, or at the right before like one of the like first trials for the Olympics, they'll do like this massive profile, TV profile on that person and tell you their backstory and how they had to overcome all this adversity to get to where they are before they go, and so you're like rooting for them before you've seen them do anything, right? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? One of the ones from one of my favorite shows, So You Think You Can Dance, that's really famous. I went back to go look at his story to remind myself of it because I wanted to tell you guys about it. And it's about this guy named Joshua who won season 4 of So You Think You Can Dance. He was like the winner of the whole thing. And he shows up and he's like an animator and he does hip hop type style dance and all of that. And so he comes to us audition, and they do the whole backstory about how he was like an orphan, and his grandparents put him through dance classes, and he'd overcome all of this stuff. And I was like, oh, this is such a good story. I'll totally show the students this clip. And then I got to the end of his Wikipedia entry, just like as I was trying to remember the details, and found out that he was then arrested for domestic violence and is currently serving a 5-year sentence in jail. So never mind, we're not going to share Joshua's story with you necessarily, but that's the type of, can you kind of picture what I'm talking about? Like, have you seen enough of these that you understand what I'm talking about? All of them have these really incredible journeys, and they all, some part of the journey for all of those people is trying to figure out, like, who they are. How are they going to get to, like, along the way, they've had to make choices, right, to decide who they are in order to get to the point where they're on this national stage or international stage, in the case of some of these shows, in order to get there. And all of us, at some point, are going to struggle with the same thing. All of us are going to be asking this question on some level of, who am I? Maybe you're trying to figure out the answer to that question right now. Believe it or not, it's a really big question. And because you're not asking it to find out, like, what your name is, right? You're pretty clear on that. Or like who your family is. Like for some of you, maybe there is some piece of the who am I question that has to do with like biological parents versus adopted parents or something like that, maybe. I don't know all of your stories. But for the most part, you know like what your name is, who your family is, all of that, what city you're from, all of that. But identity really just means who we are. It's what makes us us. It's what makes you, you. It's a simple word, but it carries a lot of meaning. And when we think about who we are, chances are that we think about it in a few different ways. Maybe for some of you, when you think about who you are, what you think about is who you want to be. Like who, when you think about your character or something like that, you think about like the things that you like, or you feel confident in the choices that you're making, or you enjoy the friends you have. You feel like you found the things that you're good at. Maybe that's what you think about when you think about who you want to be. You like the sense of identity that you have and the person that you're becoming. You're just like, who you are is who you want to be. Or maybe who you are is more about who others expect you to be. Right? So like maybe for as long as you can remember, people have told you who they want you to be. Maybe there are expectations that your parents have placed on you to be something in particular. Or maybe you have a sibling who has placed an expectation on you, good or bad, right? It can go either way. But maybe it's an older sibling or a younger sibling. You know, maybe you know that your parents wish you were more like one of your siblings. Maybe they've even gone so far as to say that to you before. Or maybe a coach made you the star player on your team, so you have to perform every week. Or maybe your teachers want you to be a better student, or your friends need more time and attention from you, but you constantly feel this pressure to live up to the expectations that other people have placed in your life. Maybe you feel like you have to act a certain way or be a certain way because of your race or because of your family background. Or maybe in a way you feel like you're constantly working to make sure your identity makes everybody else happy at the end of the day. Or maybe identity for you is about who you have to be. The circumstances in your life have put you in a position where you have to play a certain role or be a certain kind of person, whether you like it or not. Your mom left, so now you have to like step up to take care of your younger siblings. Or you have been told that you are a leader in a club or something, and so now you feel like you have to like always be on whenever you step into the room. Or you feel that you have to be more tough in order to survive because of the neighborhood that you live in or the friends that are around you. No matter what your situation is, your identity isn't shaped so much by who you want to be, but instead by who you have to be because of the circumstances around you. Or maybe your identity is more about who you're not. When you think about who you are, the first thing that comes to your mind is maybe I'm not smart enough, or I'm not athletic enough, or I'm not maybe pretty enough, or rich enough, or popular enough. And you could like fill in the blank with just about anything here. And this might be so real for you right now. For many, many middle schoolers, when they think about who I am, it is so often mostly defined by who they understand themselves to not be. And it might be so real that you could answer the question, who am I, by saying, I'm just not enough. I'm not enough something. I'm not enough anything. I'm not enough. Deep down, the real question that you're asking when you ask this who am I question, the question that you're asking in a very deep level is, am I enough? Now, the big question of identity, it's really complicated. And I want to let you in on a little bit of a secret. Most of the adults I know are also asking this question. That it's something that many of us, if not most of us, have to continue to answer for ourselves over and over again. As we come into new seasons of life, new iterations of how we understand ourselves, we have to re-answer the question of who am I? We're all looking to understand who we really are. And when we're not sure about how to answer that question, then we start looking in all sorts of places to try to figure it out. We start looking in all sorts of ways to try to figure out who we are. For example, maybe the answer is in your performance. Like if you can just make good enough grades or score enough points on the basketball court or get the lead in the play or be the nicest kid in our small group, then that what will answer the question of who you are. Or maybe the answer is in appearance. Like if you could just wear the best clothes or find the best way to style your hair or get your braces off, then you could find an identity that you're happy with. Or maybe your answer is in relationships. If you could just get in with the right group of people or get enough likes or followers or start dating the person that you want, then we can all figure out who we are. Whatever it is that you're looking for to help answer this big question about who you are, the problem is that the answers never seem to stick. That the thing that you're filling that hole with of like, am I enough? The way that you're trying to answer it, it just never seems quite right. Just none of it fulfills. And after all of that, we're still left looking for an answer to the question of who am I? We're still left wondering, but am I enough really? This biggest of these questions of identity like this one, they need better answers than performance or relationships or appearance. Here's the good news. I've got an answer for this big question that I think is going to help all of us. But that answer comes from a real story that happened to a kid a really long time ago, and you've probably heard a version of this story before. The kid's story was written down by a guy named John, who, and we find it in the Gospel of John. And the Gospel of John tells the story of the life of Jesus' ministry here on earth. And so John wrote down a lot of really amazing things as he learned the story about what happened to Jesus. And he wrote them down so we could know them today. And I don't want to totally spoil the story, although I'm sure probably a lot of you are familiar with it. But I want to give you a few important details. So Jesus is obviously the most important person in the story. But the second most important person in this story is a kid who we don't really know how old he is. And we don't know for sure if the kid is a boy or a girl. But we don't know where the kid came from or what his or her circumstances were. We don't know about their family or their hobbies or even if they believed in or knew about Jesus before this moment. But what we do know is that this encounter with Jesus changed this kid's life completely. So much so that we're still talking about it. So I want to take a look at it out of the Gospel of John and chapter 6. And we're going to read it, and it's a lot. We're going to read for a little while because it's a big old chunk, 15 verses. After this, Jesus went across the Galilee Sea, that is the Tiberias Sea, and a large crowd followed him because they had seen the miraculous signs he had done among the sick. Jesus went up a mountain and sat there with his disciples. It was nearly time for Passover, the Jewish festival. Jesus looked up and saw the large crowd coming toward him. He asked Philip, "Where will we buy food to feed these people?" Jesus said this to test him, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "More than a half year's salary worth of food wouldn't be enough for each person to have even a little bit." So let's just stop for just a second and put in context. Half a year's salary, in order to feed all these people sitting here, even like a half a year's salary, we wouldn't have enough to do that. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that here in Northern Virginia, the mean income, like a middle amount of income for a person, is somewhere around, say, $45,000. Now that's on the low end, but we're talking about like an individual, like median income, so like a lot. If you, your parents, or people that you live with make a whole lot more than that, people make a whole lot less than that, but let's just say $45,000. So half of that, so like 22 and a half, right? $22,500. So what Philip is saying is that $22,000 wouldn't even come close to feeding all of the people that are gathered here, okay? Just to try to put that number in your mind if you have any kind of sense of money. That's what Philip is saying here. More than a half a year's salary worth of food wouldn't be enough for each person to have even a little bit. Like it wouldn't even cover him like a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said, "A youth here has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what good is that for a crowd like this?" Guys, here's lesson number 1. Yeah, probably you have, because it's a really popular one. Never say to Jesus, like, try me, right? Like never say that to Jesus, because Jesus says, okay. So Jesus said, have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass there, so they sat down, and about 5,000 of them. And when they count 5,000, you've probably heard this before, they're counting 5,000 men, so that doesn't include all of the women and children that were there in the crowd. Then Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he distributed it to those who were sitting there, and he did the same with the fish, each getting as much as they wanted. When they had plenty to eat, he said to his disciples, gather up the leftover pieces so that nothing will be wasted. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves that had been left over by those who had eaten. When the people saw that he had done a miraculous sign, they said, this is truly the prophet who is coming into the world. Jesus understood that they were about to come and force him to be their king, so he took refuge again alone on a mountain. So basically, there's Jesus standing in front of this crowd, and all of these people are getting hungry. And who did Jesus choose to help make that happen? This kid, who's, maybe he had packed a lunch, or his mom had packed his sack lunch that day when she or whoever sent him on his way. And it's so important to know that back then kids had, I don't want to offend you, but kids didn't have a whole lot of value culturally, right? They had value in that they could help the household in some way. They had value in that they could work. They had value in those kinds of ways, but they didn't have a lot of. They were treated really more like property than they were people that belonged to their families, and they could be used. Think for just a minute about what we already know about girls back then, right? When you were entered into a marriage commitment, when your parents entered you into a marriage commitment, you got paid, right? Your dad would get paid by your future husband for you. So you were like a piece of property who is transitioning hands, for which your dad is receiving money. So it's really more property. So you can imagine how most kids really, it's just sort of the water that they swim in. It's not that they necessarily had a sense of being worthless, but not a lot of attention would be paid to a kid who's just hanging out on the fringes of this crowd. It's not like there's just not. They didn't walk around with a whole lot of understanding of themselves as being really special. On top of that, we know that the kind of bread this kid offered Jesus was a kind that mostly poor people had, like bagels. Anybody like bagels? First of all, I need to know, are any of you allergic to fish or gluten? Which one? Gluten. Okay, I won't throw this at you. Are you allergic to fish or gluten? Okay, I don't have any shrimp. I think I don't think this is shellfish. Anybody fish or gluten? Any others? Gluten. Okay, all right, I won't throw any bagels at you either. Anybody? Okay. All right, so we know that that the kind of bread that the kid offered Jesus was the kind that mostly poor people had. And then there was this fish. Anybody like fish sticks? Any of you really into fish sticks when you were kids? Yeah, fish sticks. This is now, don't get me wrong, these are Gordon's fish sticks. I didn't buy the cheap Target brand fish sticks. I bought the real thing, but still, this is barely fish, okay? So it was the cheap stuff, right? The cheap fish and the cheap, everybody had fish. And the kid only had 2, right? So I have 6 fish sticks, which is maybe 1 serving of fish. Anybody want a fish stick? Anybody else? Bagels? Okay. So, bread, bagels, and fish sticks. All right. Was there enough? I had 5 of the little mini bagels, and I had 6 little fish sticks, which is the equivalent of maybe 1 serving, maybe even not quite 2 servings worth of fish. So here's my question. Was that enough to feed 5,000 people? No. Not even enough to feed the 60 people that are in this room, right? So not Not enough. And by the way, the food that I just threw out to you was supposed to be this kid's lunch. Like, that's what he was supposed to eat. And who knows when he was going to go home that day, when he was going to get more to eat. Like, I just gave away the kid's food. So what's the kid supposed to eat, right? Nothing about this kid made it seem like they'd play an important role in the story here. But Jesus saw it differently. Of course, Jesus could have provided enough food to feed those people all on his own, right? So here's an important part of the story. Yes, Jesus is God, right? That's what we believe about Jesus. That Jesus is God's son. That Jesus has, and we know from the miracles we see Jesus perform in the Bible, that Jesus has the power to do whatever Jesus wants to do. So Jesus didn't need the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish, didn't need it to feed the people. Jesus could have said to the rocks, become bread, and they would have become bread. Jesus could have commanded fish to like fall from the sky. Jesus could have done whatever he wanted. Jesus could have said, make everybody not hungry anymore, right? Rod talked about this in his sermon this morning, if any of you were in Big Church. Like God has the power to make food appear out of nowhere, but that's not the choice that Jesus made. And I want you to understand this, that wasn't the choice. Jesus didn't need any help doing it either, right? Like Jesus had the power. He didn't need anybody to volunteer their lunch in order for him to do this miracle. He didn't need help making miracles happen. But when Jesus looked at this kid, he saw more than what everyone else saw. Jesus saw that this kid had more than enough. Those 5 loaves and 2 fish were more than enough. Why is this important? Well, because what was true back then is this story is still true for us today. Jesus knows who you are. Jesus knows who you really are. More importantly, Jesus knows who he is. And our biggest questions deserve better answers. Just like this kid, you were made in the image of God. Whatever it is that you believe about yourself, whatever other questions that you have about yourself and your identity, you need to know that at the core of it is that you were made in the image of God. That is the most important answer that I could ever give you to the question of who am I? The most important answer to our biggest question about who we are, it's the most important thing about our identity. It's enough for us to know just how much God knows and cares about us because we were made in the image of God. And because Jesus is who he is, we can trust that Jesus can do anything with anyone. Jesus wasn't limited by what that kid had or didn't have to offer. The same is true for us. Jesus makes what we have and who we are enough. Whatever it is that you have to offer, whatever it is about you, Jesus takes whatever that is and makes it enough. Jesus turns our not enough into more than enough. Jesus turns our 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish into enough food to feed 5,000 people with 12 baskets of leftovers. Our biggest questions need better answers. So the next time you have big questions about who you are, remember this. You don't have to prove that you're enough. We don't have to look any further than Jesus to find the answers to our big questions about identity. When you're not sure who you are, you can hold on to this truth. You don't have to prove that you're enough. Jesus already says you are. Jesus already says that you're enough. And there are there areas of your life where you feel like you're not enough right now? Places where you're struggling to be confident and comfortable with who you are. Identify those areas. Identify one area of your life where you feel like you're not enough. If you're not sure, here's some questions. What's worrying you? Where do you feel insecure? What questions make you nervous? When do you find yourself making excuses for not measuring up? The answers to those questions might help you realize when you're struggling with the big questions of identity in your life right now. And then think about how you respond when you feel that way. Do you try to hide who you are or how you feel? Do you try to cover it up by pretending that you're something that you're not? Do you change something about yourself to feel more like what others expect you to be instead of trying to prove that you have what it takes, instead of trying to prove that you are enough, or hide so nobody notices who you're not or who you want to be, or pretending that we are something that we're not? We can remember this one thing, that the only answer that matters about who we are is the one that Jesus gives us. And Jesus says that who you are is enough, that you were made in the image of God, and that is the only answer that you need. This week, I want you to simply commit to doing one thing to help you remember who you really are. Maybe it's writing down the truth that you don't have to prove that you're enough. Maybe it's asking your small group leader to remind you that you're enough, to maybe have if you start to deal with that, to maybe send them a text or something and have them remind you of that. Maybe it's memorizing a verse that helps you know that this is true. In fact, here's a verse to start with. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Maybe you need to write down Ephesians 2:10 and put it up, put it in your phone, put it on your mirror in the morning, put it on the front of one of your binders for school, put it in your backpack, whatever. Whatever it is for you, I want you to look for answers to your big questions about identity in places that will remind you of what is true, that you don't have to prove that you're enough. And one way you can start to believe this truth is by spending time with others who love Jesus and who love you, and that's where your small groups come in. The people in your small group and your leader are there to help you process your biggest questions. The truth is, we were never meant to figure out these questions alone. And so as we're all wrestling with the question, who am I? Your small group is a safe place to do that. They can help you to remember. They can remind you that you are already enough. So as you move to your small group to share this story today, I want you to think about this one big question. What's one thing you know is true about who you are? We are doing what now? This is for small group time? Yes. Okay. We've got in your small group leaders in your curriculum, there were some instructions about some handouts and things that you need, and we have those outside for you to grab on your way to your groups. I'm going to pray for you. Please don't leave crumbs on the ground. So, okay, let me pray for you. God, thank you for these students, and thank you for the story of this kid who gave up his lunch so that others could eat, and who, by doing that, showed us a really important truth, that when we think that we don't have enough, in your hands it turns into enough. God, I pray that you would help each of us to turn over what we have to you, and for you to tell us that we are enough, that we don't have to prove that we are enough because you've already decided it for us. We love you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen.